Hey everybody, welcome back to the I Play 2 podcast. I'm your host, Rob Adler. This week, fellow podcaster and writer Neil Villapiano joins the show. He has written for the Hockey Writers covering the New Jersey Devils and the Seattle Kraken. Also, Neil spent a season as the public address announcer for the New Jersey Titans in the North American Hockey League. Currently, Neil hosts the Devil State of Mind podcast, which talks all things New Jersey Devils hockey, both on and off the ice. His uncle, Phil Villapiano, was a four-time Pro Bowl linebacker in the 1970s with the then Oakland Raiders and was a part of the Raiders' Super Bowl XI victory over the Minnesota Vikings. Neil, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate the intro, my friend. And yeah, it's an honor to be on the podcast with you and talk a little bit about everything.
Thank you, man, for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Here in New Jersey, finally the heat is not overwhelming. And that's been enjoyable as we're getting down to the end of the summer, getting into the fall. And considering what I do for a living in terms of covering hockey, that just means the hockey season is right around the corner. And so I'm excited about that for sure. And I'm doing very well today.
When it comes to weather, it's 104 here. So can you send the cool weather down my way?
I'll do my best. Mother Nature and I don't always get along, unfortunately.
Speaking of Jersey and the weather, have you had a chance to get to the Jersey Shore over the summer?
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. I live less than 5 minutes from the beach, so I'm really right there where all the quote-unquote bennies come down to every summer to kind of just take over everything. So yeah, I live not too far from a very well-known area called Asbury Park. I know a lot of people know about that from guys like Bruce Springsteen and John Bon Jovi have mentioned it numerous times. And people like that, Danny DeVito as well. I live in a small little town called Little Silver right next to Red Bank, New Jersey in Monmouth County. Born and raised there, still living there to this day. And I've had a chance to go there many times. I'm going to go to the beach tomorrow.
Well, as a big beach guy myself, I'm going to call a 10-minute penalty for misconduct.
I have every opportunity in the world to go to the beach. Very, very quick drive over there with no problems whatsoever.
And you mentioned Asbury Park, and I'm going to throw out another reference for you. How about Bam Bam Bigelow?
Oh, of course, yes. Very well known, for sure.
So how did your interest in hockey kind of develop?
And really, for me, it kind of started in the mid-2000s, around like 2005, 2006 is when I can really remember my dad taking me occasionally to the old Brendan Byrne Arena, a.k.a. the Continental Airlines, a.k.a. the Izod Center in the Meadowlands, right across the street from where MetLife Stadium is, where the New York Giants and New York Jets play. The New Jersey Nets also used to play in that arena for people that didn't know that. But I watched it, and right away I became so infatuated with the sport, everything about it. Loved every second of it, how action-packed it is, how fast-paced it is, and everything like that. And fell in love with it right from the beginning. And I didn't learn how to ice skate and everything until I was about 14 or 15. I wanted the opportunity to play the sport, and I was fortunate enough to be able to do that and play the position that I love, which was goaltending, and got to play 1 year of high school hockey. And although I would have loved to have become an NHL goaltender, I still lived out one of my dreams of playing hockey at a high level and experiencing that. And I've been engulfed with hockey ever since. I am incredibly passionate about it. It's the thing that I strive to want to achieve in my life. My dream is to work in media for hockey long term, whether that's as a broadcaster or an analyst or a writer, whatever the case may be. I want that opportunity because I feel that not just because of my passion, but also because of my knowledge, my understanding, my professionalism. I feel that I can bring a dynamic look and feel to a lot of fans and to a lot of these organizations if given the chance, for sure.
How did you decide to want to become a goaltender?
For me, as obvious as this might be for a lot of diehard hockey fans and certainly people who know the New Jersey Devils, Martin Brodeur became my idol and became the reason that I wanted to be a goaltender. For me, I was so fortunate to watch, without question in my mind, the greatest goaltender to ever lace up the pads play on a night-to-night basis and see the type of moves that he made and see just what he was able to do. And I wanted to play all the time. I didn't want to come off the ice and sit for 30 seconds or a minute I wanted to play every single minute of the game. And when I learned that the goaltender plays all 60 minutes of a game, I knew that that was the position for me. And as the old saying goes, you got to be a little crazy to play the position. And I won't lie, I'm a little bit crazy myself. And the designs of goalie helmets was such a eye-opening thing for me. It was really cool. It's still very cool to me to this day. And having their own personalities. And for me, that's why I wanted to play the position.
You mentioned the goalie masks. What's your favorite goalie mask that you've seen as a fan?
Wow, that's a really tough question because I've seen so many over the years, and I've seen so many at the Hockey Hall of Fame from well before I started watching or that I was even born. When I think about it, I think to me, the one that stands out, and I know the Devils fans are going to give me grief for this, but the one that Henrik Lundqvist wore in the 2014 Stadium Series, where he kind of on the top of his helmet has like the crown because his nickname was King Henrik. But also that outdoor game was at Yankee Stadium. It wasn't at the old one. It was at the one that the Yankees play in now. He had all of the great legends that had played for the New York Yankees, the Babe Ruths, the Lou Gehrig's, the Derek Jeters, the Mariano Rivera's. To me, it was really cool because it was a combination of honoring the present and the sport of hockey and obviously having his own personality, but honoring the past greats that had played, not specifically in that stadium, but had played for that organization and honoring them. And so for me, that was definitely my favorite goalie helmet of all time.
I'm much more of an old school guy with goalie helmets in terms of not so much like for one game, but what they wore throughout a season. And my two favorites are the John Van Beesbrook Gold Panther from the 90s.
Yes, classic.
And then the Jerry Cheevers one, he had all the stitches on the face from when he got hit before he wore a mask.
Yes, those are iconic ones for sure. And I'll give you another one I've always been a fan of, Eddie the Eagle. People like yourself living out in Dallas, just very simple. An eagle mask that he rocked for the majority of his career, both with the Blackhawks as well as the Dallas Stars. It was really awesome. It's a very cool one that is currently very well displayed in the Hockey Hall of Fame.
So as a huge hockey fan, have you ever held the Stanley Cup?
I have not. I took a picture with it, but I am like many people with the superstition that you do not touch the Stanley Cup unless you've won it. And I don't think I'm going to have the opportunity to win Lord Stanley's Cup anytime in my lifetime. And I wasn't going to take a chance on touching it and getting in trouble or pissing off the hockey gods. So no, but I've had the opportunity to take a picture with it, both at the Hockey Hall of Fame as well as when Trevor Van Riemsdyk, who was with the Blackhawks in 2015, brought it to Middletown, New Jersey to show it off, and I got a chance to see it there. But no, I have not touched it. I'm not going to tick off the hockey gods for sure.
Interesting you mentioned Trevor Van Riemsdyk. I had his brother Brendan on my show a few months back.
Fun fact for you, Rob, Brendan was one of the people that taught me how to become a better goaltender. He was part of a camp that I was a part of. He really helped me in my development and getting better. Granted, he was not a goaltender in any right, but he had a lot of tips from his own experience playing against goaltenders that really helped me just become better at the position overall. So I give Brendan a lot of credit for that for sure.
Was there any tip that he gave you that maybe still stands out to you today when you're writing about the game that you lean on so you understand the position better?
The biggest one, and I tell this to young goaltenders all the time, and I say it on broadcasts, is that as hard as it might be, you got to keep your stick on the ice at all times. And you see it all the time when you watch games. When goals are given up, especially through the 5-hole, through the legs of the goaltender, the first thing that you notice is that that stick is not on the ice. If that stick stays on the ice, that puck doesn't go past you. And you got to keep the stick firm on the ice too. You can't hold it lackadaisical. You got to keep it firm on the ice. So for me, when I played, no matter what happened, I always kept my stick on the ice because you never know. My famous quote is, hockey is a magical, unpredictable sport. You never know what could happen at any given time. And the amount of weird goals that I have seen over the years get deflected, looks like it's going up and it gets deflected down low. And the goaltender, if he had just kept his stick, that puck never goes in anyway. That was the biggest thing that kept with me, is that the amount of goals that I gave up when I was first starting out through my legs because I couldn't keep my stick on the ice. I made it a point to always keep my stick on the ice no matter what. And I preach that to goaltenders to this day.
Before we get on to your writing and broadcasting career, is there a favorite memory you have of being a goalie, making a big save, winning a big game?
Again, I played 1 year of high school hockey, and I wasn't that great. I wasn't anything spectacular or anything like that. And I didn't win a lot. Funny enough, I won one game in my career. And the reason that it stands out so much is because before the game, the visiting coach came to our locker room and said, one of our goaltenders has to leave early because he's got to go to like another camp or something like that, which was very strange. And they asked if one of the goaltenders from our team could take for the second and third periods to play for them. And I volunteered myself. So I sat on the bench the first period, didn't play for our team. And then I went over to the other team and I was their starting goaltender for the final two periods, win the game. And afterwards, I went into the opponent's locker room just to thank them and give them credit. And the coach gave me the game puck that I wrote on it saying my first ever win. That's still hanging up in my room to this day. And that was probably my best memory as a goaltender in my short time as a goaltender.
You're the David Ayers of New Jersey high school hockey.
Exactly. That's how I look at it. I was David Ayers before David Ayers.
Have you ever seen the piece that ESPN did on the emergency backup goaltenders? If not, you should check it out.
I definitely saw it. I've seen it several times. It's a really good one. I think it was an E60 special that they did. It was really good.
You played the 1 year. What made you decide to give up the pads and get into the journalistic side of things?
The journalistic side of things started well before I even played hockey. I think in like 2009, 2010, growing up, and my parents can tell you this, I would broadcast games, whether it was watching them on TV or going on YouTube and watching old recordings and talking about it. It was just something that just came very natural to me and something that I really enjoy. I went to several camps. I went to the sports broadcasting camp in New Jersey, and it's still going strong to this day. Jeremy Treatment is the owner of it, so I give him a lot of credit. And I think the simple thing when it came to why I gave up the pads was simply that I knew that I wasn't going to go very far in the sport, and I'd kind of accomplished what I wanted to really accomplish in the sport, but I knew that I had a deeper passion for covering the game as opposed to playing it. My physical gifts were not there, but my mental gifts like that were there. And I've done so much over the years since I really kind of focused on it. I got my certification in sports broadcasting and journalism from Hofstra University. Shout out to Michael Chisena and Keith Arizari for creating that program that's still going on to this day in Hempstead, New York. And then in 2016, right after I graduated high school, I was fortunate enough through a family friend to get an opportunity to work in Cherry Hill, New Jersey, which is not too far outside of Philadelphia in the south part of New Jersey. I worked for a network called RVN TV for 3 years. From 2016 to October of 2019, I was the host of a sports talk television show called The NVP Show. Not the MVP show, the N, like my initials, the NVP Show. Keith Reynolds, Donald Robbins, Aaron Robbins, all of those guys were big helpers to me. Joe Osamendi, guys like that gave me the chance to really grow and learn without having to go to college. I mean, I got so much experience from just doing that for 3 years, going off to schools and interviewing teams, doing professional, minor league, college sports. I did it all. I learned how to edit. I learned how to produce. I learned so much in those 3+ years that I was there. And it was unfortunate that it had to come to an end, but it led me to the opportunity that I'm working on today. Right in the middle of the pandemic, I was interacting with a Twitter account called the Soda Pod, which is still in existence to this day. The host of it asked me to come on his podcast to talk about the Minnesota Wild. He also realized that I was big into the New Jersey Devils, so we talked about them as well. And after the podcast episode, he said, hey, on our network, the Hockey Podcast Network, we're looking for a New Jersey Devils host. Would you be interested in being that guy? And I said, absolutely. And I came up with the name, and On June 1st, 2020 to this very day, the Devil's State of Mind podcast has been going very strong. It is one of the most listened to hockey podcasts on our network, one of the most listened to New Jersey Devils podcasts out there, and one of the top 70 most listened to hockey podcasts in North America, something that I'm very, very proud of because I do all of the script writing, I do all of the podcasting itself, the recording, the editing, the producing. I do all the social media. I do it all myself. And again, learning so much on my own and everything, it just makes me feel so proud and showcases that I do know what I'm doing. And I've come a long way. And the podcast has given me the opportunity to work for people like the Hockey Writers, to learn what it took to become a writer, working for Big Apple Hockey, and now currently working for Pucks and Pitchforks on the FanSided website covering the New Jersey Devils that I'm currently doing right now. And I've also been fortunate enough to publish 3 different books that you can check out. JETS Pain, 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 talking about the New York Jets. Meet the Mets Mess, talking about the New York Mets. And for hockey fans out there, From Maple Leafs to Maple Laughs, I'm very proud of those books as well. And all that has led me to where I'm at today.
What was something from the camp that really opened your eyes to make you think I could really do this?
I think for me, what really stood out was the first day that I was there, I started doing just some sports center type thing where you sit in front of a desk and you kind of go through the highlights, and I did it really well. I followed the script, and one of the counselors there said, "This kid's a natural." And to me, to get that recognition from people in the industry, seeing someone who's 12, 13, 14 years of age and being able to do that as well as I did at that level, I think gave me the confidence to say, you know what? This is exactly what I was put on this planet to do. This is what I know I'm good at. This is what I'm talented at. And it gave me the motivation and confidence I needed to get to where I'm at today.
When you got to RVN and you were able to learn so much, how much of a more well-rounded, I would call you almost a predator in terms of a producer editor, do you feel that you are now because of that experience?
I feel that I am a very, very, very well-rounded producer and editor because of RVN. They not only taught me about pre-recording or even live recording, they allowed me to then go on my own and edit segments that I could then share with them that they can put on my show. And to see that come to fruition and watch it as I'm preparing for the next segment, it made me feel really good. And it showed me that I was capable of it. And it showed me that it's not just the broadcasting that I could be good at, but the whole creative, artistic approach to making a segment and making a show look phenomenal from start to finish. And they gave me that confidence in myself and gave me the knowledge that I needed to better myself as a producer and editor, even to this day, to constantly reach higher, to constantly get better. That's what I take from my time at RVN.
Was there anyone that you interviewed there that you really enjoyed?
I mean, the two that stand out to me, I had a chance to interview Mark Schlereth, the former offensive lineman for the Denver Broncos, who then went on to work for ESPN. I had a chance to interview him live via telephone on the Friday before Super Bowl Sunday a couple of years ago. That was really cool because I had seen him on TV a bunch, and it was a great opportunity for me to speak with him about the game, about his career and things like that. It was really awesome. The other guy, and this is way more personal for me, is talking to my uncle, Phil Villapiano. I had a chance to have a sit-down interview with him, and I've had a chance to talk to him many times, but this was a great opportunity for me as a professional to really sit down with him and talk about his life, his career up until that point. Also, just talking about the game itself today, the Raiders, and things like that. And it was great to have that one-on-one interaction with him and to have that moment with him because he's very close in my life, one of my biggest supporters, and it meant a lot to me that I had the opportunity to interview him and do that.
From his days as a Raider, what is the favorite story that he told you?
His favorite story that he would tell me was from Super Bowl 11 when he made that famous play of the game tackle forced fumble on Foreman, because at that time the Vikings were driving, looking to take the lead and grab that momentum. And my uncle made the play of the game that forced the fumble. The Raiders recovered. They took that moment and ran with it and came out with a blowout victory in Super Bowl 11 that allowed Phil to earn his first and only Super Bowl ring, and something that is still near and dear to his heart. And I never get tired of hearing that story. I love listening to it and seeing it on videos that he has. It's a great story that everybody should know.
Did he ever take you to go meet anybody like Jack Tatum, Madden, Dave Casper?
Unfortunately, no. Fortunately for my dad, his brother, he got a chance back when Phil was playing to meet all those guys in their prime. The Jack Tatums, the Ted Hendricks, the John Matuzaks, the Ken Stablers, the Clifford Branches of the world. He had a chance to meet all of them back then. I have not, unfortunately, but I know that at some point I may get the opportunity to down the road. But still, to hear those stories and everything is great. And one story that I love is my best friend went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame a couple of years back when Giants Hall of Famer Michael Strahan was inducted. And in that same induction class, Raiders punter Ray Guy was also inducted into the Hall of Fame. And Ray Guy and my uncle were the best of friends. And my best friend got one of the programs and asked Ray Guy to write me a nice personal message talking about my uncle. And I still have that autograph to this day, and very appreciative of that for sure.
That is one heck of a cool story. And an awesome mention of Ted Hendricks earlier, because he has one of my favorite NFL nicknames ever in the Mad Stork.
Another nickname he had was Kick Him in the Head Ted. That was another one that people called him too. That's one that not everybody knows about. He was a great player and one badass of a person for sure.
Getting back to RVN here, is there any kind of story or piece that you worked on that's near and dear to your heart?
I became very close with the Fairleigh Dickinson University Red Devils football team because I did a lot of segments for them. Part of one of the segments is actually on my demo reel on YouTube. I became very close with a lot of the players. I became very close with the head coach at the time, Brian Serace. His brother currently is the head coach over at Princeton, and Bob's son is actually a freshman quarterback at Rutgers right now, just signed his letter of intent and currently with the Scarlet Knights as we speak. But I went to a lot of practices, went to a bunch of games. They came to a restaurant where I did some live recordings there, which was really cool. Overall, I really loved doing segments for them because they really showed that they saw a young kid and they saw an opportunity to get some exposure for themselves and to help me as well. And out of the kindness of the heart of the athletic director at the time and Brian Serace, they allowed me to do a lot for them, to then cover a lot of other sports for them, soccer, basketball, field hockey. It was great. And I hold those moments very near to me. And looking back, they were big helps to me as I grew as a host, as an analyst.
One thing I read was that you developed like a special interest piece on hockey programs for disabled children and teens, which I found very intriguing. Would you mind elaborating a little bit more on that?
I was fortunate enough to meet with a guy named Alex DePalma, who is in charge of the Brick Stars in Brick, New Jersey, good buddy of mine. He actually got me the opportunity to go up to the Prudential Center for a Kids with Disabilities hockey event that the New Jersey Devils grassroots team put together. And I had a chance to interview a lot of the kids that were a part of it, several former Devils, Grant Marshall, Bruce Driver, Colin White. And that was a very special piece because it gave light to a lot of people. Even if your child or whomever you know has a disability, it doesn't prevent them from still doing the things that they love and that they want to do. And when you create programs like that, that's the result that you get. And so for me, just being able to showcase it to the world and to help them grow as a program meant a lot to me. And it's still one of those things that is a big part of my life. I love making an impact in young people's lives, and that was kind of the start of it.
So one of the things that I thought was pretty cool is that you've been a public address announcer for a couple of different teams. How did that whole thing even get started? Because that's a role that not many people get to do.
It was one of those things where I got an opportunity to be the PA announcer for a all-star high school hockey game in Middletown, New Jersey. And I did it and I really enjoyed it. And over the years, when there were opportunities for like contests or jobs, I auditioned for them. And I've had a lot of people over time say that my voice and my enthusiasm is really good. And it became very enjoyable. I tried out for the Brooklyn Nets when they had one. Even though I didn't get it, I was still happy I got the opportunity. New Jersey Jackals minor league baseball team I did for a period of time. Did the New Jersey Titans, as mentioned before, for a little bit. I was the backup for the Protect Ducks as well. I've done a little bit for high school as well as college. And honestly, if I got the major opportunity to be the PA announcer for a professional team, I would jump at it immediately because I love that aspect as well, because everybody hears your voice and they're looking for somebody who has that energy, that charisma, things that go really well with it. And I really enjoy doing it whenever I get the opportunity to do so.
Is there anything about the preparation process that maybe people don't realize that goes into being a PA announcer?
I think the thing you look at when it comes to preparation is number one, you got to know the names of every player on both teams. You have to, and you have to know it correctly. When you're reading scripts for like ads or games or stuff like that, it is important to simply read over the script multiple times to make sure you completely understand what you're saying. And then the other thing is to make sure that your voice comes out very, very assertive in a way where it's just people know that you're talking, you're getting their attention, and it goes from there. It's really important that you know what you're talking about. And that's the way that I look at it. And that's how I prepare all the time.
How long did it take you, and sorry to use a poor cliche here, but to find your voice as a PA announcer?
It took me a couple of years because, again, I started off as just wanting to be a broadcaster and going in that realm. And there's a lot of differences between being a broadcaster and being a PA announcer. And for me, it really kind of started with the tryout that I had for the New Jersey Jackals. They were having a contest where the winner would get to do a couple innings of a game. And I remember walking in there and being very nervous. And all I did was I reminded myself of the old New Jersey Devils PA announcer, Kevin Clark. And I said, try to be like him. Imagine yourself that you're in his position right now and broadcast it and PA announce it that way. And so I did it that way and it came off really well. I ended up finishing in second place. I was the runner-up for it. And this is when I was 12 years old. But I had parents that came up to me and my dad and say, your child is a natural. He's tremendous. He should definitely win the contest. He was phenomenal. Like I said, didn't win it, but just having that satisfaction showed me there's your voice. That's what you got to be. That's how you got to do it. And I got better over time by doing it multiple times.
Is there a game that you announced for that still sticks out in your mind for either what happened, something crazy, anything like that?
The biggest one that stands out to me for sure was we were doing a red on white scrimmage. So this was training camp. So we had guys who were wearing the red jerseys and we had guys wearing the white jerseys. And it was a really fun event because I got to go on the ice during the intermission to kind of PA announce some of the games that were going on. That game ended up being pretty dramatic and ended up in overtime. So I really wanted to make the overtime goal announcement emphatic. And I remember when I did it, the players were tapping their sticks on the ice. They loved the energy from me. And again, that was really a lot of fun. And I really loved that moment.
I know you've also done a lot of writing. I know you worked for the Hockey Writers for a little while. What was it like to cover the Seattle Kraken? Because that's a little bit out of your element in terms of not so much from the hockey side, but you're so involved with New Jersey. Now you're covering a team all the way across the country.
I'll kind of give you the background story of how that came about. So I had people that suggested to me that I reach out to the hockey writers to see if they were looking for more writers. And when I reached out and I was talking with Kyle Geip, who is the founder and owner of the Hockey Writers, he said to me, hey, look, we don't have an opening for the New Jersey Devils. Here's a list of teams that have openings. And I picked the Seattle Kraken because even a year ago, they're still a very new team that's building a fan base as we speak. And I looked at myself and I said, why don't I be a part of that? Why don't I be a part of introducing new people and new fans to the Seattle Kraken and getting that interest going? And so when I did my trial run and everything like that, I focused on the Seattle Kraken. All of my articles around the Seattle Kraken are still up on their website. And it was a lot of fun to learn about a team that I knew nothing about, that I had to do my due diligence and my research and spend twice the amount of time making sure I knew what I was saying, I was clear, and it was a lot of fun. Fortunately enough for me, in the summer, Kyle came back to me and said, hey, we want to hire you. And it just so happens that there's an opening for the New Jersey Devils. Without hesitation, I took that opportunity and I spent the rest of my time with the Hockey Writers covering the New Jersey Devils. But looking back, it would have been nice to keep writing for the Kraken, especially once the season began. I think it would have been fun for me to create a new market, a new following. I'm still a fan of them for sure. I think I became a fan over writing for them and covering them. And so I still very much pay attention to them. And if I have the opportunity to write about them again, I would certainly take that opportunity as well.
You mentioned that you worked for FanSided. How did you get into that role?
A good buddy of mine named Joe, aka Jersey Joe, he saw that I was looking for another opportunity to do some writing. He said to me, here's the application to reach out to FanSided and express your interest in writing and covering the New Jersey Devils on the Devils FanSided website called Pucks and Pitchforks. And so about a month ago, I reached out to them, contacted through email. I went through their whole application process, and very quickly I got accepted in as a contributor now for Pucks and Pitchforks. So I put out a couple of articles so far within the last 2 weeks. That's currently what I'm doing right now in terms of writing and covering the New Jersey Devils from Pucks and Pitchforks, which is great for me also because I grew up reading Pucks and Pitchforks. It's been around for years. So for me to get the opportunity to write for a website that I grew up reading, it's kind of a great full circle moment for me for sure.
We've talked about your podcast a little bit, The Devil's State of Mind, but tell us a little bit more of what it's about, what you do, some of your favorite guests.
Devil's State of Mind podcast, for the fans, by a fan. That is my slogan that I like to use. It covers everything you need to know about the New Jersey Devils, from news, player transactions, off the ice, whatever it might be, front office news. I also cover some women's hockey as well. I also cover the Devils minor league teams, the Utica Comets of the AHL and the Adirondack Thunder of the ECHL. And I've interviewed a lot of really awesome people. A couple of guys that stick out to me. My first ever big interview was, and he never even played for the Devils, but it was Jonas Hiller, the former Anaheim Ducks and Swiss goaltender. I had a chance to interview him about 3 years ago, and that was a really awesome experience because I grew up watching him play. So having the opportunity then to interview him and learn about his life, I think was tremendous. I had a chance to interview Eddie Lack, who played a little bit for the New Jersey Devils. Great guy, currently a real estate agent. He was a great interview, really great personality. A couple other guys stand out. Ryan Carter used to play for the New Jersey Devils in the mid-2000s and the early 2010s. Became one of my all-time favorite Devils growing up. Part of the CVGB line with Steve Bernier and Steven Gianta. That was a great interview as well. Pasha from Spittin' Chicklets, I had him on back in February of this year, which was great. He's a big Devils fan. Those are some of the interviews that stand out to me the most that I've had the fortune to interview.
Being a former goalie yourself, what was it like to interview the goalies and Hiller and Lack?
What was great about it is that you get to learn about how they became a goaltender, how they created their own tendencies, their own experiences in high-level games, playing in the National Hockey League, and really just kind of where their personalities come from, and learning that a lot of these guys said you got to be a little crazy to play this sport, and you learn a lot about the position, you learn about the mental aspect of it, and how mental the game is for that position. And those are some of the things that really stand out to me when I interviewed them.
Did Lack share any fun stories about Luongo?
Not as much. He shared a lot of stories from his time in New Jersey about interacting with Marty Brodeur. He wasn't playing at that time, but had a chance to spend a lot of time with him and also get a chance to hang out with some of the main focal points of the team now, Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Jack Hughes, even a little bit. So got to learn some great things about them and their personalities as well. So you felt you got to know them a lot more personally.
And for you, what's your favorite part of doing the podcast?
It is simply that I get to make a positive impact in people's lives. There's not a day that goes by that I don't go to a game and people recognize me. I've been able to make a lot of friends over the years doing the podcast, take pictures with people who listen to the podcast, and really become a celebrity in some capacity. And simply, I'm just a guy that gets the opportunity to cover his favorite team and do what he loves on a daily basis. And it means a lot to me. It makes me smile. It makes me feel like that I'm doing something good in this world and that people are acknowledging what I'm doing and giving me credit. And that tells me that things are only going to get better for me in my career moving forward. And I absolutely love doing it every day.
Do you ever travel to games? I don't mean necessarily like to the Rangers or the Islanders, but do you ever go out west or anything like that?
I went out to Columbus, Ohio this past season with my little cousin, and I got a chance to cover the Devils when they took on the Blue Jackets. I had the chance to go out to San Jose, California. I'm planning on going to both Nashville and Seattle this upcoming year when the Devils are in town to cover them there. So I had the chance to travel a bunch, and I'm going to be traveling a lot more this upcoming season.
When you go to Nashville, you got to hit up a food truck there. It's called I Dream of Weenie.
Okay, I'll definitely keep my eye out for it when I get down there.
And speaking of food, you live in one of the best states in the country for food. Where's your place to go to grab a slice?
My favorite place to go to is my house. Growing up in a Southern Italian household my whole life, my dad has always been very big on traditions and embracing that Italian culture. And we're fortunate enough that we have a brick oven in our house. So my dad can easily make brick oven pizza. He makes it better than any place I've ever been to. You get this real authentic pizza and it's tremendous. So I would say the household that I grew up in.
You have no idea how jealous I am right now.
I've had a lot of people say that to me over the years for sure.
What's your favorite Italian meal to have? Is it pizza or is it something else?
My favorite by far is pesto gnocchi. I absolutely love it. I make it a lot. It's something that I really love. I love the taste of it. I love the texture. It's a phenomenal thing. Nothing like that and a little bit of homemade wine to go with it is really awesome.
With your Italian heritage, have you ever been to Italy?
I unfortunately have not yet been to Italy, but I do plan on going there. But fortunately enough for me, with my father and with a lot of his relatives, I've been able to learn a lot about my family history. One thing that we take great pride in is that we make our own homemade wine. We've been doing it for over 100 years in this country. We make it the first 2 weekends of October every year, make both red and white. It's a dry wine, but it's still very, very good for a lot of people and something that I take a lot of pride in.
Oh, your wine's like my humor.
I guess you could say that. Your humor is a lot less dry than my wine, I think, for sure.
Is it a family custom that everybody makes the wine together, or do you guys all make it separately and then test to see who made it best?
We all kind of come together in the wine cellar in my dad's basement. A bunch of us come together. We get the grapes. We press them. We don't step on them. I'm just going to say it right now. We don't step on them like people assume that we do. We crank them. We press them. And then by the time Thanksgiving and Christmas come around is when we're able to open up both the red and white and have it. And we all just come together as a collective unit and make it together.
That's pretty cool. Have you guys ever thought about bottling it and trying to sell a little bit of it?
Well, all of it is bottled. We have them in barrels to start, and then we do bottle them. We've never really sold them. We usually just kind of give them away. My dad's never been interested in it, but it's certainly something that I've tried to convince my father of doing because I've told him that there would be a lot of people out there that would buy it.
You probably already know this, but if you don't, former football players Rick Meyer and Drew Bledsoe each have wineries. That would certainly be something to look at and possibly get a connection.
Dick Vermeil also has a very well-known winery out in California. Fred Bolitnikoff played for the Raiders, teammates with Phil Villapiano, has his own wine as well. There's a lot of companies out there. My podcast is partnered with Horns and Tail Napa Valley, which is the official wine club of the New Jersey Devils. They make their own wine that sponsors me, which is a really cool opportunity for me. So wine is firmly in my blood, no pun intended.
I didn't know anything about the winemaking side. That's very neat to hear. I, for whatever reason, didn't think that a lot of people still made homemade wine.
I would say, to be very honest, it is a dying breed. Not a lot of people from the old days are around to still do it. But my dad continues to keep it going, and hopefully the young people like myself will continue to keep it going when he passes.
Looking ahead, where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years?
That is the classic job interview question that people ask me all the time. Where I see myself in 5 years is working in the NHL in some degree in media, whether that's for a team specifically or the NHL itself. I feel that my talents are at that level, and I know that I'm getting there. I just have to continue to reach out to my contacts, continue to make connections with people within the hockey world. And I know that, and I tell this to everybody, all it takes is that one person to give you the opportunity, and then you can run with it. Every single opportunity I've had, all I needed was one. They gave me the chance, and I ran with it. And that's what I promise everybody that I've worked for and that I've potentially got the chance to work for, to say, give me the one opportunity, and I will run with it. I promise you.
Neil, I want to thank you so much for joining the I Play Too podcast today. It was great to hear about your stories about being a goalie, how you got into the business, your Devil State of Mind podcast. Continued success with both the podcast and wherever your career may lead you. Thank you so much again, sir.
Well, Rob, again, thank you so much for having me on, man. It was great to meet you. Really appreciate you reaching out and having me on, man. And we can definitely do this again whenever you want.